Hello world. I always feel a bit anxious about reviewing games which veer more towards the art side of things. Games that might be more focused on taking you through a story than on puzzle design, for instance. Because, let's be honest, I've spent most of this series focusing on the mechanics of the games I cover, hiding under the pretense of I'm bad at critiquing stories so I shouldn't and I won't, you can't make me, la 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 la. Now, that's a bit of a cop-out, I'm not going to deny that, but also, it's basically true. I don't feel confident in judging stories or picking out and discussing themes. Sure, I may dabble with it once in a while, but I could do better. My videos for puzzle-light games tend to be on the short side, and that's pretty telling all by itself. On the other hand, I can co-opt a popular phrase and say, get us a game that does both. Today's subject is When the Past Was Around, created by Mojiken, released in September 2020 for Windows and Mac OS, and we're not doing the normal story synopsis this time round. Instead, I'll provide this quote directly from the Steam page. An adventure point-and-click puzzle game about love, moving on, letting go, and the joy and pain of everything in between. So that might clue you into the fact that emotions are involved here. The game essentially tells the story of a couple from their first meeting and onwards, scene by scene, jumping between several points in time. The woman there is Ada, and it's her perspective we experience everything through. Her early life, her love of music blossoming, right up to and including her relationship with someone known only as the Owlman. I may not be good at thematic analysis, but I'm fairly sure that last part isn't meant to be literal. A pet name, perhaps? Or maybe an animal which embodies the traits Ada sees in him, like wisdom or nobility. It's something we can only really speculate, because the game is told without dialogue, which must have made it a lot easier to implement all these language options. My translator friends are going to give me so much shit. Can't have been an easy task to design a game this way, to infer meaning with visuals alone, and in a way that's unambiguous regardless of language or cultural experience. They pull it off in this case, at least for English-speaking me. There may be ambiguity in the story or interpretations to conjure, but not to the point of being confusing or frustrating. There's a very auteur feeling to the whole game, actually. I got a sense that this game came out exactly as intended, that the ambiguity that is there is intentional. To me, that made it quite compelling in spite of the game's short length. Around 2 hours or so for me, with the developers predicting even less. Considering the asking price of £5.79, I don't see that as a negative. The length and price combined with the quality of the art and music make the price match the content, in my opinion. And I don't think it would have benefited much from adding extra scenes to pad out the length. There's already pretty big potential for this game giving you the feelings as it is, and sometimes we need a game like that. Now that's twice I've said scenes without explaining exactly what I mean. I should correct that. Gameplay wise, you'll be moving between small areas representing a memory of Ada's. You progress to the next part once you find a feather, and you find those feathers by solving puzzles. It's easy to take a cursory glance at the footage, see the protagonist standing in place instead of walking around, and come to the conclusion that this is either a linear traipse through cutscenes or a hidden object-esque experience. Not so much though. The puzzles you're asked to solve fit in with the traditional gamut of point-and-click puzzles. Search through cupboards, read some notes, scan the environment for clues, steal some items, figure out some codes, all familiar stuff. Not too taxing, yet more than a token effort to avoid the no gameplay comments, it's substantial. In fact, I genuinely got stuck on one of these for a wee while. There's a curve to it all as well, with early scenes featuring a small series of simple puzzles and, as we go further down the memory hole, progressing to multiple rooms in the same scene filled with more complex puzzles. Now, just because this is a short, low-price game doesn't mean the game doesn't have any quality of life improvements. Quite the opposite, actually. It's a very well-produced affair. As evidenced by the artwork of Brigitte Rena that you're seeing now, that the simple fact that the game basically has one piece of music with some variations played intermittently for 2 hours, and it doesn't get old. I'd still listen to it now. There's more examples of this quality on the mechanics side of things too. Hotspots will show a different cursor depending on what you can do with that hotspot. Be it interacting with the hotspot, taking a closer look to get a close-up screen, taking an item, or showing a question mark to indicate that an item needs to be used there. Usually, it does one more thing later on. You can even show all the hotspots on the screen with this handy button. That one does come with a caveat, and that can serve as my nitpick for the video. There's no way I found to scroll the screen and show hotspots at the same time. So you kind of need to show hotspots, scroll along a bit, show hotspots again, and so on if you want to see all the spots in one area. You might not be surprised to learn that I like this game, given that this is the best improvement I can think of. And if any of that makes you wonder, not entirely sure if that's the kind of game I want to play, you can find out for yourself. The prologue chapter is available free of charge. If I had to boil this experience down to one word, I'd go with relaxing. And if I got a second word, it would be sweet. I rarely finish the games I cover in one sitting, and I didn't here either, but only because I had to go run an errand in the middle of playing. It's really easy to just sit back and play this through in a oneer. Now, easy might sound like a strange word choice, what with me saying that I got stuck at one point. Same with the word relaxing, given that I've already insinuated that something bad happens in the story, and the description on the game's Steam page doesn't make that a secret. But watching the relationship between these two grow, seeing their love of life and music bring them closer together, it's quite lovely is all. Might be a nice wee game to enjoy over a cup of tea, take in the artwork, listen to the sweet melodies, and possibly bawl your eyes out depending on how hard the story affects you. Hell, I'm not going to judge. On that point, not to spoil anything, but there is a hopeful note in there. It's not a downer, or certainly I didn't find it to be. I think it just offers its own interpretation on grief. And more importantly, I think it shows the hopeful side of it. That point where some form of acceptance comes and the pain, although still present, gives way to hope. You'll always have the memories, after all.